We do turn today to a film that has held somewhat of an understated statement in the jam-packed cinematic landscape of 2025, with Dreamworks Dog Man releasing in the weird February-January half-term low alongside the Marvel behemoth Captain America Brave New World. This is, of course, the long-awaited adaptation of Dav Pilkey's Dog Man scholastic graphic novel series, following on from prior book adaptations from the studio, including 2017's Captain Underpants' first epic movie and 2024's Oscar-nominated The Wild Robot. This outing sees the harebrained super cop attempt to catch the notorious Petey the Cat, who is forced to re-evaluate his position after a villainous attempted cloning results in the production of an innocent younger version of himself. Thankfully, DreamWorks have done it again. The animation, although not something I've seen mentioned particularly often online, likely due to the sheer quality of the rest of the movie, is brilliant, taking much inspiration from Pilkey's work and blending Jordan Howard's juvenile creations, and I mean that in a great way, with the artistry of highly advanced technological graphics to create an amazingly understated work of art. Like the animation, the story also derives largely from Pilkey's original work, cramming the story largely from books 1 to 11 of the ever-expanding series into a runtime of just under an hour and a half. This is worth mentioning because of the fact that the Dogman universe is actually an ever-expanding one, especially when considering recent additions such as Cat Kid Comic Club and Big Jim Begins, marking a notable difference to its Captain Underpants counterpart, which had a totally complete story to work with 2 years before the release of the movie. Nonetheless, they really do make it work with Dogman, with the integral tale of Petey and Little Petey told with near equal levels of warmth and kindness as demonstrated throughout the books. Additionally, Dogman, who often feels more like a token gesture, goofy protagonist in later books, gets a lot more to do than actually expected, and although his story is largely centered around the opening act of the film, it actually does expand him as a character, combining humor with an occasional tragic atmosphere that is rarely touched on in the books. I mean, I don't mean to get dark here, but the cop and the dog have suffered a tragic accident and their lives are falls apart. That we don't get that in the Dogman books. So that sort of thing is actually quite nice to see. It is admittedly a little rushed at times. Its short runtime results in a tightly wound package that could perhaps do with a little less villain of the week and a bit more time to fully flesh out the emotional highs and more difficult topics that made the books so remarkable. Speaking of villain of the week, Flippy the telekinetic fish and an army of walking buildings fill that role. Ricky Gervais, who is in this movie for some reason, is actually, in my opinion, pretty fun as Flippy, and although the character may perhaps be one of the best villains from the Dogman books, others are only allowed brief appearances throughout the movie, it does undermine pretty much all of the development that he gets in later books. Additionally, the tale of Petey and Little Petey does feel slightly rushed, although it is not the main victim of the short runtime. Brief arcs involving Chief, Sarah the reporter, and most notably, Petey's dad are really, really rushed, with the latter feeling as though he honestly could have been left out, forcing one of the tragic highlights of the books into a barely explained 5 minutes of content. Nonetheless, though, I'm being totally nitpicky here. Dogman is an hour and a half of raucous fun with great visuals and a great story, and although diehards of Pilkey's work may be unhappy with a few small inconsistencies, the overall care that has gone into the piece shines through, leaving any superfan or not, feeling just a little bit better about the world. And I do just want to quickly mention, if you're about to watch the movie, just skip ahead 30 seconds, but the highlight or the funniest gag of the movie had to be for me, and I was reminded of this in Mark Commode and Simon Mayo's review of this, is when Lil Petey, as they call him, says, Flippy Kaye, Flippy Flopper. Cinema, honestly.